Hey, my name is Brad, guys. I'm so excited that you to come out here and talk for a second. I made a point to, I'm going to drag this over here, to have Bryce do that because I don't want you walking out on me, so I pushed Connection Point next week so y'all won't leave the service when I'm speaking. Some of you got that, right? You can leave when Pastor speaks. We want you to leave second, third, and fourth Sundays. But when I speak, y'all stay seated. Yeah, we're going to sit in here, right? No, hey, my name is Brad. I'm one of the pastors here, and I'm excited to get a chance to chat with you guys because they're actually letting me inside. Usually I'm out there, but I get to come inside here, so it's always exciting when I get to come up on stage and spend a few minutes with you guys talking. And we're still talking about the Sermon on the Mount, and our new series title is called Do Right. And Pastor was like, Brad, I want you to speak. And I was like, okay, I can do that. And then I found out that our message title, our series title for the month is Doing Right, or Do Right. Dudley Doing Right. And I have a story I want to share with you guys. I said, I got the perfect story to share with Doing Right. So, a couple weeks ago, we loaded a truck up. My wife, my son and I loaded a truck up of supplies to drive to Minneapolis. That is 1,100 miles. See that truck right there? Through your generous giving, we're able to do this. We loaded this truck up. My wife was like, I'm kind of scared because that's a big truck you're in. Now, you guys know me. I'm a great driver. And I'm a big dude. You know, so I can handle this. And I was like, I'm going to drive this truck. So me, my son and I, we're going to drive this truck to Minneapolis, all the supplies. So he's my co-captain. He's sitting there beside me. We're cruising. I'm getting a big head. My head is like, psh. I'm driving this thing like a boss. I mean, I'm like sitting here. I was just chilling. I'm texting and driving. I'm just kidding. See, I'm seeing if you're listening. I wasn't. I'm doing Facebook Lives. I'm on there. No, I'm driving. And my son in Kentucky, we're driving. He looks over at me and he goes, Dad, you're driving really good. I'm really surprised how good you're driving this truck. Now, I could have been insulted at the time, but as I stated, my head was getting big. I'm like, thank you, Max. I'm crushing it. So we're sitting here driving, and I said, you know what? Let's stop in Chicago for a night or two. He's like, that sounds like a good idea, Dad. So I booked us a parking spot. I did research in Indiana. Like, I'm going to get us a spot. We're going to park this big truck somewhere where I can, like, park it not to be in it for a while. And I said, you know what? We're going to drive downtown. Yeah, I'm good. I'm really good. Now, Max is like, are you sure about that? And I said, I've never been more sure in my life. I'm more sure now than I was deciding if I wanted to have a baby. Yeah, some of you got that too. And so I got us a spot. We're driving. You know, in Chicago, you're driving down these dark, you're underground, right? So I'm losing phone signal. But God was on my side because I remember seeing a photo on Spot Hero of this parking lot. There it was, like an oasis. I said, there, we're going to park right there, buddy. We pulled in. I was so excited. I said, I drove downtown, Max. I cannot wait to tell your mother. I didn't like my parking spot. I'm like, you know what? I think I can do better because guys are like that, right? We think we can do better than we actually have done. We can top our previous, celebration. Like, I did really good, but I'm going to top it. So I'm like, I'm gonna do a back end because my son hates it when I back in. I think I'm going to back this big boss truck back. Well, I started backing it up, and then I hit a truck. Yeah, you didn't see that coming, did you? No, I didn't either. I hit a truck, and then my son, very smart and astutely, says, Dad, I think you hit something. And I'm like, yeah, Einstein, I did. So then I made him get in the back, and I didn't look at him again for a while. No, I was calm. I was calm. I'll stay calm. I didn't say this in the first service, but I did call the police. I did. I didn't say it in the first service. I think they left thinking, he didn't call the police. He's not doing right. So I called the police, and they could care less. They're like, hey, man, you're bothering us. We're eating donuts or whatever they do. I think I just insulted half of the piece in here. And I said, okay, I'll leave a note, because I'm going to leave a note, right? So I wrote a note out, laid it in the guy's window, hoping he doesn't find it. I'm just praying it falls down, because I did the right thing, right? Just, please, God, don't. Maybe the wind will blow it away, and then there'll never be a note. So hours have passed. Max and I, we went to Lowe. We're eating pizza. In the back of my mind, I said, son, I'm worried this guy's going to cuss me out when he calls me. Who wants to come out and see their nice brand new truck dented on the front? I don't. Of course, I'd have to have a new truck for that. But after a while, I get a text. It's like 5 hours later. And he goes, hey, this is so-and-so. You hit my truck. And I was like, oh, man. I said, I am sorry for hurting your truck. I said hurt, because I didn't want to say hit, you know, maybe soften the blow. And he goes, it's okay, things happen. Whoa, I was like, whoa. And I said, I really thought you were going to cuss me out. He texted me back, and he said, why would I do that? There's not many nice people left in the world that's going to leave a note. And then at this point, I'm thinking, please don't, maybe you don't turn this in. Maybe we just pretend like there was never a note. No, I didn't. And so y'all can clap for me. I did the right thing. You can clap. Thank you. No, I did not tell you this to brag. I did not want you to clap for him, but you can in your brain. So I then felt bad again, so I sent him a DoorDash. And I said, sorry for hurting your truck again. And he gave me the prayer emoji, because that's the way we go now, right? He gave me the prayer hands. I'm like, oh, good. He likes me now. He's good. But guys, I kept thinking in my brain, what if I'm the only Jesus this guy's ever seen in his life? What if he's never been around a Christ follower? I could not have hit his truck and enjoyed Chicago if I hadn't had let him know I hit his truck. The win in this story is my son said to me when we were in the pool, he said, Dad, when I hit a truck one day, and I was like, I hope it's on your insurance, not mine. Because I got my insurance at a really good spot in life. I'm excited about my insurance, and now I've got a claim, and it's just really bothering me. He said, when I hit a truck one day, Dad, I will leave a note. And I said, that's the win. That's the win. He will always remember his father leaving a note and doing right. And that's what we're going to be talking about, doing right the next few weeks, and not much about me hitting trucks, but I can drive a U-Haul now, so I'm excited about that. And I'll add that to my resume of driving a U-Haul. And it was nice to prove my wife wrong. 1,100 miles is a long ways to drive one. She didn't have any faith in me, but I did it. So today we're still on the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus talking, and he says in Matthew 6, 1-4, be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others, as I just did, or to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in their synagogue and on the streets, to be honored by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Matthew 6, 1-4. That's a lot of stuff there, right? He's telling us, and that hits home for me, because there's been times I'm like, hey, did y'all see what I just did? I did that. Yeah, that's me. I drove a truck 1,100 miles, and I wanted you to clap for me. And, you know, that's me bragging, but not bragging. So he's telling this, but today we're going to talk about your treasure time and your talents. Now, some of your brains are like mine. You're like, whoa, I thought it was time, treasure, talents. That's usually what we hear, right? But not today. I'm changing it up. Spoiler alert, changing it up. Now we're going to talk treasure, time, and talents. So we're going to start in Mark at 12:41 through 42. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Now, first, I want you to visualize that in your brain. Jesus is watching what we give. Think about that for a moment. Jesus is watching what we give. He's watching the time you give. He's watching the way you give your spiritual gifts, and he's watching the money you give. Imagine if he was right here, right now, watching us. Many rich people threw in large amounts. I'm sure they knew Jesus was standing there. So they're like, hey, Jesus, you see how this $100 bill I just threw in there? Like a boss. And throw it in there like that, and Jesus is watching them. But a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins, worth only a few cents. Now, it's like worth 1/8. If you want to know what she put in there, she put in about 6 minutes worth of an hour's pay in the pot right here. She walked up, she dropped it in. A lot of you guys have heard the widow's mite story, but today and you're thinking, oh my gosh, Brad's going to talk about giving. I don't like giving sermons because I don't want to give, blah, blah, blah. No, we're going to talk more. It's more than just giving of your money. God wants you to give so much more. Your time, your talents, and of course your treasure, right? We all have treasure. What is your treasure? So then we go to Luke. As Jesus looked up, he saw the rich putting their gifts in the temple treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 small coins, as we wrote about, as Mark wrote about. And he looks at his disciples, because he's like, you're about to learn something. Truly, I tell you, this poor widow has put more than all the others. All these people gave their gifts out of their wealth, but she out of her poverty put in all she had to live on. What's your treasure, guys? What is your treasure? This lady had 2 copper coins that she put in there. The widow did not care who saw her. It was because it was between her and God. So I stand up here, I talk about treasure. I was always stingy with my money, right? I mean, who's not? At one point in your life, we've all been stingy with our money, right? Our bank accounts. We like to know how much we got in our bank account, and we like to spend it. And my wife and I were no different. We love spending money. Our treasure was in what we had, what we could accrue in our house. That was our treasure. So one day, my wife, she calls me up, I'm working. She says, hey, Brad, that's my wife voice. We got a lot of debt. And I'm like, okay, we do. We do have a lot of debt. And we had like $35,000 worth of debt. That's a lot, right? And so she's like, we got to figure out a plan. So we huddled up. We figured out a plan. And the plan was we're going to pay this debt off. Now, in doing this, I called her again one day, and I said, you got to sell your car. She wept on the phone. I could feel the tears coming through the phone. She's like, I love this car. And I'm like, yeah, but you got to sell it. And secretly, I was happy. I was like, ha, 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 ha. I just flexed on my wife. She has to sell her car. But we kept a board in our house, and it had what we owed. This board right here, this is actually it. We kept it in our kitchen, not for everybody to see. It was for our eyes, so we could know where we stood each month. So if we were paying down something, we had this much left, it would be on there. If you notice the dates, we paid it off in 6 months. Yeah, $35,736 in 6 months. I had so many $5 hot and readies. Man, my body was incredible. It was in incredible shape at that time. We ate very little. We spent nothing. But our treasure went from serving ourselves to serving God. Through that, We were able to walk up to that pot that widow came up to and dropped in, and we were able to say, yes, we can do that now. We're not burdened by debt. We can take this job. We can do this for those people who are in need. Through that, we were able to do what I'm doing today. I mean, I'm here, right? Because often we give our treasure, time, and talents for others to see or to buy our way with God. God was her only motive. The only motive this lady had was not so people would brag about her. It was not so Mark would write about her in the Bible. Her motive was to get close to God. We paid that debt off in full. And we talk about generous giving. We talk about our treasures here at the Pointe Church. And because of your generous giving, because you guys give your treasure, you walk up to that pot and you drop your treasure in because you have faith that money is going to be used for great things that God has in store. We were able to drive that truck to Minneapolis. And while we were having an incredible Bible school here, Vacation Bible School, we were up there at their Vacation Bible School. And actually, I brought some photos with me today. Y'all can check them out. I'm going to talk while you see them. Okay, so that guy's got a killer mullet, by the way. We were up there, 150 kids at this camp. Monday through Friday, 9:30 in the morning to 12:30. They came and heard a message about God. They got to play games. It was a blast. But because of your generous giving, they're able to do this. They're able to rent the park to then have the Vacation Bible School for the kids in their area. But here's the cool thing. Because of your treasure, because you brought your treasure and you put it in that pot, 56 kids accepted Christ at this camp 2 weeks ago. Yeah. 56 kids showed up on a Monday not knowing Jesus and left on a Friday knowing Jesus because of the treasure you bring and you put before God. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Okay, now we're going to talk about time, and that's where people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about time. To me, time, I get more guilty about my time than I do my money, right? To me, time is the most important currency. I would much rather hand you $20 than hand you 2 hours. That's just the way I am. Money is easier to part with than time. But I struggle with that. I struggle with time. A lot of things take my time. And you see, what is taking your time? I want you to do a self-evaluation right now. We've talked about treasure. We're talking about time. I want you in your brain to think about what's taking your time. What is it that's pulling you away from Christ? What is it that's pulling you away from your family? Man, I love to work. I love to work. And, working for me is fun. And, as we see up there that the widow's her giving was her worship. Her giving of her time was her worship. And I love to be here. A lot of you, last time I spoke, I got to tell you what I do, because some of you are like, I don't know what this guy does, man. I just see him around. But, I'll tell you really fast. Connections I love. I love connecting people. I love Connection Pointe. I love life groups. So I get to oversee life groups. I get to oversee outreach, which impact, and we call it impact, but it's outreach if you're new here. I get to do a little bit of everything. So for me, coming in to work is fun every day because it's something new I can always try to tackle. But with that, I have to walk up to the pot and I have to lay my time in there for my family, right? My wife knows that. Like, there's times where she'll be like, I wish you'd come home. And I'm like, I can't come home. I'm at a party for church. No, I just want to say party for church. I was going to stop at party and see what y'all thought. But, there's things that I have to do that comes with the job. But I love it. Hear me. I love what I do. Max riding in the truck with me, my son Max, for 1,100 miles, uninterrupted, was priceless. I did not want it to end as a dad. It was so much fun hearing him talk, hearing him without distractions of video games and his friends down the street that wanted to play outside. I had his undivided attention for 8 days. That's a long time, and I loved it. But for me, I confess to you guys, it's hard at times. I'm like, I need to spend more time with my family and less time doing it work stuff, and I want you guys to feel the same way. We only got one family that God's given us, right? How are we balancing that? Are we having enough time to get in the Word with Jesus? Are we listening to what God's putting before us when it comes to our family? That widow was dropping so much more than those 2 coins in that pot. She was giving God everything. And we want you to give God everything. Now, when I met my wife, we were dating, and she said to me, Brad, I have a passion for South Sudan. And I was like, okay, I think that's somewhere in Africa, somewhere over there. But that's cool. That's your passion. I will go along with it because I want to date you. And so she's like, I got a movie I want you to watch. It's called The Lost Boys. And I said, well, I love that movie, man. It's a great vampire movie. Kiefer Sutherland's in it. We're going to have some fun watching The Lost Boys. And then she said, of Sudan. I'm like, oh. So there's no vampires. And she said, no vampires. I'm like, okay, I'll watch this movie with you. I watched it, and on the excitement scale, she was like a 10. I watched her. She literally cried watching this movie with me. And I'm probably the 3, right? Because I'm like, okay, that's cool. I'm learning about it. So as the years passed, she said, Brad, when we were dating, she said, I feel like God's going to use us to impact someone over there in Africa. I cannot wait to go to Sudan and pour in. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to go to Africa. You can go. I don't know if I'm going to go, but I'll support you. So she talked about it for years. And she came to me last year, and she cried. She said, I'm going to give it to God. She's like, I don't think it's in God's plan for me to go to South Sudan and help. And she really cried, and I held her. She went up to that pot, and she threw her dream in there. And she said, God, this is yours. Do with it what you want to do with it. Her timing was not God's timing. And she had to accept that. So she threw it in there. She's like, I'm ready to move on. God, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. So a few months passed. She says, Brad, we got a chance to have a Nigerian girl live with us. I was like, okay, that's somewhere in Africa. I know that. And we prayed about it. And then she went and she said, I don't think it's right for us. So we both decided we wouldn't take the Nigerian girl. So she went to tell them at school. She's like, no, we're not going to take the Nigerian girl. We just don't feel like it's what God wants. And they said, good, because we just had, there's a young boy, he's 17, from South Sudan that needs a house in America. Would you be his family? Kristen wept in the office. You see, the dream she gave God, God said, no, I'm not done with that dream. You're just going to get it later than you anticipated. So we got Gabby. Some of y'all have seen Gabby. He's 6'11". There he is. I look pretty cool in that picture, by the way. He's 6'11". I think he's grown a little bit since then. He's here training to be a horse jockey. He's going to be a really good one. I was surprised. I thought it was basketball, but it wasn't. It was riding horses. That's his dream. And no, he is a great basketball player, although I did score on him one time, and I never let him live it down. I faked him, went up and scored. Yeah. But God gave us Gabby. And I tell you, he's such a blessing to have in our house. Max loves him. And Max gives him way more attention than he gives his mom and I, so we know he loves him. But yeah, God couldn't have blessed us with a better 18. He's 18 now, celebrated a birthday in June. He's 18, but he's a great kid. And our time, we had to then walk up to that pot, throw our time in, because now you guys with 8 kids, 9 kids, you know how it is. You know, I only have 2, and it's hard to balance time. But we always have to be mindful of our time. So when we walk up to that pot and we want to give God our time and our treasures, we have to think about what God's plan is for us, right? So let's talk about your talents. Some of you guys are going, I'm not talented, Brad. I'm not. Yes, you are. You're talented. We're all talented in some way. I hid my talents for so long. I was like a squirrel who takes the talent, takes the nut right, buries it, and never wants to dig it up. I talk about this in Connection Point. I never wanted to use the spiritual gifts that God gave me. It took years for me to apply them. And I started getting that itch. I was delivering mail. I was out there carrying mail every day. I loved it. Who wouldn't love walking in 70-degree weather, chilling, listening to radio, listening to podcasts, listening to sermons? I could do whatever. But I wasn't using what God gave me. And I remember God put on my heart one time, he said, you got to start using your talents. And I'm like, well, I don't know my talents. So I had to find those out first. Surprisingly, doing this was one of them, and I was not really game for that. But I was like, you know what? I'll try it. I'll try it, God. And God has taken that, and now I will do whatever I have to do to get people to know Jesus. I wore hot dog costumes. I would dress up like a Bible man up here and wave. I would put anything on, stand on the street corner and wave, if it meant 56 kids would raise their hand except Jesus. Do I like putting costumes on? No, not really. But I will. Are you ready to put a costume on? Because if you are, we got a taco suit. We definitely can use you. No, but are you ready to do whatever God is calling you to do? Are you ready to do that today? Are you ready? See, we have Connection Point. I hear some yeses, and I like that. We have Connection Point, and we talk. And you saw Bryce give that nice video. It's great. Thank you, Bryce. We have Connection Point, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Sundays. Unless I'm speaking, then we'll change it. 2nd, 3rd, and see, I was joking there, young. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But that's going to help you understand your spiritual gifts. You're not going to have to be that squirrel like I was, squirreling it away. Now you're going to know your giftings. You're going to know how to apply them. You may find out that you're compassionate, and you didn't even know it. You can go to work and really hone that gifting in. Some of you have giftings you don't even know you have. You can go to Connection Point, and you can find out your gifting. Because every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. James 1:17. That's a powerful verse, right? Every gift you have comes from above. God has given you that gift for a reason. God has big plans. Your God-given gifts are important and can be used for God's kingdom. They can be used here. They can be used at work. They can be used anywhere. But do not squirrel them away. Take your gifts and use them. We talked a little bit today about your treasure, your time, and your talents. So what? God wants us to know that God owns it all. We are stewards of 100% of what God gave us with treasure, time, and talents. It's not a la carte. It's not a buffet where you just pick what you want. You can't say, God, I'll give you my treasure, but I'm not going to give you my time. That's for me. Or I'll give you my time, but I'm definitely not going to cut a check because they're going to do what I don't want them to do with the money. No, you have to do it all. But the cool thing about it is you can start today with one. You can start today by picking one of those. And you can go, you know what? I'm going to focus on giving God back. You can sign up for a Connection Point. You can scan that QR code in front of you. You can sign up for Connection Point. We want you to be at Connection Point. Even if you've been here 20 years, we want you to be at Connection Point. Now what? It's time to give God your all.